Hello and welcome to the closeout video for the Leadership Academy Book Club. This was a fun 6 proposal to do a book club covering 6 different books, and I want to take you a bit through what we achieved through the year. Our first book was Impact Networks by David Ehrlichman, and in this we came together and learned about network mindsets and how that works, topic about leading in networks, and then cultivating impact networks. So we spent a bit of time going through different things around leadership roles and how to catalyze, facilitate, weave, and coordinate these networks, as well as principles of network leadership. We looked at fostering self-organization, promoting emergence, embracing change, and holding dynamic tensions. And through the cultivations, we talked a little bit around clarity and purpose, convening the people, cultivating trust, coordinating actions, and collaborate for systems change. So that was a really interesting book. There's a bunch of notes here taken by the participants. And if you go to the Miro board itself, of course, there is a YouTube video of the actual book club as it happened. So we record each of these and put them onto YouTube. Our second book was a book called Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows. And this was really great. It gave us all an introduction to systems thinking. So we really looked at what systems are around 1 and 2 stock systems, and we learned about stock and flow and how that works. We did a bit of a deep dive and spent a lot of time around systems traps and opportunities. So there were a bunch of systems traps, like policy resistance, success to the successful, escalations, tragedy to commons, and other things that we looked at and discussed. And then we talked about how systems thinking can be relevant to Catalyst. So there's a whole bunch of stuff and notes here. And again, if you want to see our videos, we actually broke this up into 2 sessions. So and we had a session on April 16th, another one on April 23rd, so you can see the 2 videos from both of those here. Our third book was called Change by Design by Tim Brown. So this time we shifted from systems thinking and started focusing a little bit about design thinking. So this book was about design thinking. So we went through what is design thinking and kind of the process of understand, observe, define point of view, ideate, prototype, and test, and how that all works, and the 3 spaces of innovation, of inspiration, ideation, implementation. We talked a little bit about tools of the design thinker. So we started looking at stuff like insight, observation, empathy, a culture of optimism, divergent thinking, and things like that, and how divergent thinking and convergent thinking actually work together to create choices and then to make choices. And then how, again, we talked about how to apply design thinking to Catalyst itself. So that was a really great discussion. We talked a little bit about how that might apply to governance in Catalyst, DREPs, whale voting, and other things. Again, if you want to see the video for that, we captured that here, so you can see that. You can either go to this Miro board and watch it in line, or go to our YouTube channel. Whoa, sorry about that. Our fourth book was called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux. And this is a really interesting book that talks about past and present organizational models and how they're broken down into concepts like red, amber, orange, and green organizations and their innovations and breakthroughs. And then we talked about the new, what's called teal organization and its primary breakthroughs of self-management, wholeness, evolutionary purpose. And how all of that kind of applies. And it was a really great conversation. I think this was the highest attended book club meeting, with a lot of people coming in to talk about things like that. And we talked about the structures, practices, and cultures of teal organizations. And then we also talked a little bit about the emergence of teal organizations and what we're seeing within Catalyst itself. And we touched upon concepts like ikigai, which is the Japanese word for life purpose, And this is really a concept of what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for overlap. At least in this model that we were talking about. We talked about how Little Fish Foundation was founded on teal thinking, and this book had a big impact on how they organize and run the Little Fish model. And then we also looked at some DAOs that are built using the teal model, and then a bunch of different resources were placed by different people. So it was really great. Our fifth book was called Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. And this was really introducing a system of personal knowledge management, or PKM for short. And really we talked about CODE, which is an acronym for Capture, Organize, Distill, and Express, which is a way of doing different knowledge management as you bring in new knowledge and process it through your note-taking system and different things. So that was interesting. We also talked about PARA, which is a way of organizing information into different categories. And PARA means projects, areas, resource, and archive. And projects are really short-term efforts that have a start and an end date. Areas are ongoing long-term responsibilities that you want to manage over time or need to maintain a standard of a standard of excellence around. And then resources are notes that you may want to look up later, and archive are things that are done, but you want to keep them around so you can reference them for later if needed. And then we talked about just general PKM and tools, and talked about things like Zettelkasten and this method called linking your thinking, and PPV. And we kind of shared as a group what PKM methods we use and had a few demos around that. And then, of course, we collected all the different PKM tools and methods and links, which was really great. This was also a pretty well-attended meeting, and a lot of people commented afterwards that they found this in particular really useful for their day-to-day work. And then our sixth book was called The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. This one was way different from all the other books. It was really a book around conflict management. So we talked about what a heart at peace looks like, heart at war, and then moving from war to peace. And it was really kind of came down to some of these collusion diagrams of how issues can kind of put us into what they call the box. And operating through a box is a less skillful place to be. And it takes two people for this cycle to happen. And we looked about the choice, where we may have a choice of what we think is right or wrong, and we can honor the sense, and then we can continue to see, in this example, Mordecai is a person, but if you betray that sense, then you start to see people as objects, because you need to justify the reason why you went against what you felt was right or wrong. So that's kind of how the heart goes to war. And we talked about the different boxes that people can fall into. There's a better than box, an I deserve box, a worse than box, the need to be seen as box. And these are all, and I've broken down on, like, when you're in these boxes, how you feel, you view yourself, how you view others, how you view the world, and the feelings that you're feeling. So these are all clues to see if you're in a box or not. For example, the better than box would be, a view of myself would be superior, important, virtuous, or righteous. When you're in the box, you'll see others as inferior or irrelevant or wrong or false. Your feelings are impatient, disdainful, indifferent, and your view of the world is competitive, troubled, or needs me. So these are all clues of these different boxes that can help us wake up to the fact that we're in a box. And then we talked about how we get out of the box. And there's some really interesting things here about how to get out of the box. We talked about the influence pyramid, where at the lowest levels, getting out of the box, obtain a heart at peace. Above that, you start to build relationships with others who have influence. You build the relationship. You listen, you learn, you teach and communicate. And only at the very tippy top do you do corrective actions. and have to deal with things that are going wrong. But a lot of the times we ignore the lower levels of this pyramid and we jump straight to the correction part without realizing that there's a whole lot of work we need to do before that, where we should be spending 99% of our time rather than spending our time correcting. So that was a really interesting book from a different perspective. And again, you can catch the video and conversation here on YouTube. And we listed a bunch of different resources for each of the books. But those are the 6 books. We had a lot of fun. It stretched from about March through September. So we had a number of books and about a month of time in between books to give people time to read it. And we also had a little bit of a summer break to give people a little bit of a break between books. But yeah, it was fairly well attended. I think there was lots of great conversation, and I think we all learned a lot. So I look forward to the next iteration of this. The DREP Book Club was funded in Fund 9, so I'll be launching this for DREPs and the 4 books that IOG recommended that DREPs read. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, thank you for your time, and hope this video was instructional and help you understand a little bit of what we covered in our book club. Thank you very much.